We continue now at the top of Daf Tazayin Amud Beis in Mesechet Kesuvos. This is Kesuvos Daf 16b. The Gemara continues when it comes to this woman who's claiming she is a basula at the time of the wedding, and he's claiming that she was an almana. That's what the husband is claiming. So why don't we believe her? The Gemara said because there's a rove on her side. The majority of women, they get married as basula. But the Gemara explains no, the majority of women get married as a basula. However, there's usually a kol. There's usually a kol that goes out, and everyone knows that she got married as a basula. Vezu, and this particular woman, hoil ve'ein la kol. Since there is no kol, isra la ruba. So this rove is actually considered to be less of a rove, and it is less in terms of us considering it as though she has a rove on her side. Rashi over here says, "Vizu hol ve'in la kol she'ein made aleh sheyatz to binuma." We don't have a kol going out that says that she went out with hinuma, which would indicate she was a basula, and therefore her rove is not as strong. And the Gemara continues, "Ikola nisis basula yesh la kol." Now, if most women who marry as a basula, or most men who marry a basula, if there's a kol that goes out, so kiyasu edim might have it. So even if edim come, as Rashi says, kiyasu edim might have it. Kevin the chazaka the yesh la kol harbe hayu yodin. If there was a chazaka that they normally have a situation where there is a kol, and that's a chazaka that there should be a kol. So therefore, again, what difference does it make if edim come and say otherwise? Might have it. What difference does it make? Hanuch sahadi shakri. Isn't it clear that these witnesses are lying? If normally a woman who gets married as a basula, everybody knows about it, and here you don't have that kol, and so therefore the Edom come and say that she was a basula, we should assume they're liars. And so the Gemara says, Alama Ravina, rather Ravina says, Rov hanisis basula yesh la kol. The way to understand is as follows. The majority of those who marry a basula, there is a kol that goes out. Vizu hoel ve'ein la kol. But in this case, since there is no kol, it's not that everybody, it's not that there's a chazaka, everyone who marries a basula, kol goes out. The majority of cases, there's a kol. In this case, there is no kol, so Isra la ruba. So again, her rov is not as strong, and therefore, since the rov is not as strong, that's why we don't automatically assume that she is correct when she says she is a basula. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "Im yesh edim sheyotzta behinuma v'chulu." Let's say there are witnesses that she went out behinuma, and so therefore there's evidence that she's a basula. So on the basis of that, she can collect the 200 of her ksuba. And the Gemara says, "V'leichash dilma mafka be'edim b'hai beidina." But if you are saying that on the basis of witnesses, without her actual ksuba contract in front of us, she can use these witnesses to collect in one bezdin. Maybe she'll use the witnesses to collect in one bezdin. V'gavian she'll collect. V'hadar mafka l'chsuba b'hai bezdin. Then she'll take out her actual ksuba document in a different bezdin. V'gavia ban. Then she'll collect a second time. Why aren't we concerned with that fact? And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Avo says, Zoso Maris, this proves Kosvin Shover, that we actually do write a Shover. A Shover is a document that the husband has that testifies to the fact that he already paid the ksuba, and therefore she will not be able to go take out her ksuba in another bezdin and collect a second time. Rav Papa says, "B'makom she'ein kosvin ksuba askinan." Very simple answer. We're talking in a place where they actually wouldn't write a ksuba document, so there's no concern that she'll take out her ksuba in another court. And the Gemara continues, "V'iko demasni lo brisa." There are some people that have this statement in this conversation on the following brisa. The brisa says, "If the ksubas, if her ksuba is lost, hitmina ksubas, if she hides her ksuba, nisrava ksubas, let's say her ksuba is burned." So then a similar idea as the Mishnah, raktu lefaneh, asachagu lefaneh. If they dance before, if they celebrate in front of her, these are all indications that she's a basula. Haviru lefaneh koshel besora. If they bring before her the cup of good tidings, o mapa shel basulim, or the cloth of the basulim. Im yesh lo edim be'ech. If she has witnesses that any of these things happened at the wedding, that is evidence that she got married as a basula, ksubasa masayim, and then she'll get a ksuba of 200. And so on the brisa, the Gemara asks the same question. We should be concerned that she'll use witnesses in one court and collect, and then she'll take out her ksuba in another court and collect with it. Maybe she'll collect twice. And the Gemara gives the same answers. Again, Amar Rabbi Avo says, Zoso Meris, this proves, Kosvin Shover, that we write the Shover document, and that's what the husband has to prove that he already paid the ksuba. Rav Papa says, B'makom she'ein Kosvin ksuba askina. No, we're talking about a situation, the Bryce is speaking about a place where they don't normally write a ksuba, and therefore that's not a concern. But the Gemara questions this answer of Rav Papa if it's going on the Brisa. Va'ivda ksubasa katani. It says in the Brisa she lost her ksuba. Clearly they did write a ksuba. And so the Gemara answers, the chasav la'ihu. He wrote her a ksuba even though it's a place they normally don't write a ksuba. Gemara says, how does that help? Sof mafkala v'gavyaba. But still, she has a ksuba. She'll take it out and she'll collect the second time, which is not proper. And so the Gemara says, no, my ivda, what does it mean that she lost the ksuba? Ivda ba'or. It means it was lost in a fire. There's no concern. It doesn't exist anymore. But the Gemara says, Hihachi Ainu Nisrafa. If that's the case, there already is a case of Nisrafa, of burned in the Brisa. It's the same case. Comes out that Ivda and Nisrafa is exactly the same. V'yod hitmina Michael Amemer. And further, what are you going to say by the case where she hid the Ksuba? How do you explain that? V'su Ivda Lamali. And furthermore, what do I even need the case of Ivda for? Again, if you have all these other cases of burned, etc., what does Ivda contribute over here? Ella rather, kol ivda ki hitmina b'fanenu dami. What it really means is anytime she loses it, that's no better than if she hid it in front of us. In other words, we wouldn't trust her for that because we would be concerned she would collect the second time. V'lo ya'avina la, and we would not allow her to take the payment. We wouldn't give her the ksuba payment. Ad amri edim nisrafa ksubasa, unless the edim actually say that the ksuba was burned. And the Gemara comments, Man de Masni La Brisa, the one who has this answer of Rev Papa that we're talking in a place where they don't write a ksuba, if you have that answer on the Brisa where it's difficult to give that answer because it actually says of the ksubasa, so Kol Shekena Masnis, and certainly you can give that answer on the Mishnah and say we're talking about a place where they don't write ksuba. Uman de Masni La Masnisin, but if you're going to learn this answer of Rev Papa on the Mishnah, Avala Brisa Lo, but on the Brisa you wouldn't have this answer. Kikushi, as we said, because it's difficult, because again it doesn't fit so well with the wording of the Brisa that we're talking about a place where they do not write a ksuba. Rashi over here explains, Uman de Masni plugsa de Rav Papa ud Rabbi Avo Masnisin. If you learn the machlokas Rav Papa and Rabbi Avo, whether we're in a place where they don't write ksuba or whether it shows that we write a shover, if you learn that on the Mishnah, Avala Brisa Lo, there will be no such machlokas by the Brisa. Masni le devadai shamina mina. Certainly from the Brisa you would see the kosvin shover, that you do write a shover. That is the correct answer. Dahabamakam shekosvin ksuba askinin, because the simple reading of the Brisa is we're talking in a place where they do write a ksuba. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Again, the Mishnah said, Im yesh edim v'chulu, if there are edim that at the time of the wedding she was doing things which indicate she's a basula, she can collect the 200. So the Gemara says, V'lechosh dilma mafka ede hinuma b'hai bezin v'gavi. A similar question to before. Why are we concerned that she's going to use these witnesses in one court and collect? V'hadar mafka ede hinuma b'bei dino achrina v'gavi. Then she's going to get other witnesses who testify that she was a basula in another bezin and collect the second time. And to that the Gemara says, B'makav de lo efsher, if it's in a place where there's no other possibility, Vadai kasvin on shover. Certainly, we're going to have to write a shover in that situation. He's going to have some kind of document, some kind of receipt to prove that he paid his ksuba. Rashi over here says, Kavan de lo efsher kagon b'makam shen kosvin ksuba. For example, let's say you're in a place where they don't write a ksuba. V'govos al pi edim, and the custom is to collect through edim. So there, you really do have that concern. V'yesh lachash l'shem atelech lebezin acher. There really is a concern. She might go to another bezin. V'tavi edim acherim, and then she's going to bring other witnesses. V'tigba pam shniya, and she's going to collect the second time. Vadai kasvin on shover. In such a scenario, you certainly would write a shover. And the Gemara continues, we said above, Haviru lefanah kos shel besor. Another indication that she was a basula is if at the time of the wedding they passed in front of her a cup of good tidings. And the Gemara says, my kos shel besora. What is this kos shel besora? Amar Ravada Barava says, kos yayin shel truma ma'avirin lefanah. They would pass before her a cup of wine of truma. Kolomar, as if to say, Ru'uya hoisazu lechol betruma. This girl, she would have been fit to eat truma had she married a kohen. Meaning to say she's a basula. And the Gemara says, Ma'askif lo Rav Papa, so Rav Papa asks on that. That doesn't make any sense. Atu almona milo achla b'truma. Does a widow not eat truma? If a widow marries a kohen, she's also allowed to have truma. Why is this an indication that she's a basula? Elo amar Rav Papa, so the Gemara says, rather Rav Papa says, zu reishis kitruma reishis. This girl is reishis, meaning it's her first time having relations, just like truma is called reishis. That's the indication that she is a basula. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, chavis shel yayin ma'avirin lefanah. They would pass before her a barrel of wine. Amar Ravada Barava, and Ravada Barava says, basula, if she was a basula, ma'avirin lefanah stuma. They would pass before her a closed barrel of wine. Ba'ula, but if she was a ba'ula, if she had had relations previously, ma'avirin lefanah psucha, then they would pass before her an open barrel of wine. And the Gemara says, Amai, why? Niabra kame basula, v'kame ba'ula, lo niabra klal. Why do they just do simply pass the barrel in front of the basula, and in front of the ba'ula, don't pass anything in front of her? Why do you have to pass in front of the ba'ula this open barrel of wine? And the Gemara says very simply, because Zimnin sometimes, the tafsa masayim, she's going to take 200, v'yamra anna basula havay, and she'll claim, I really was a basula. V'hai delo avru kamay is not isnu sehu dis nisu. And the only reason they didn't pass the barrel in front of me was just an accident. They didn't get around to it. So therefore, it's better if we pass in front of her an open barrel. Everyone will remember that she was actually a ba'ula, because that event is going to be memorable to people. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Ketzad Meraktin Lifnei Akala, how do we dance in front of the Kala? Beis Shammai Omer, Beis Shammai say, Rashi over here says, Ketzad Meraktin Ma Omrim Lefoneh, what do we say in front of her? And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph.